Yeah, so my name is Louie Vazquez. I own my CPA firm. Been in business for 5 years now. Uh, Vasquez Baldwin and Family Incorporated. I have two office locations, one in Los Alamitos, which is our LA County location. And then we also have another location in Irvine, which is our Orange County location. Really been on top of this whole PPP situation ever since the first round came out last year, just trying to get as many people in on it as possible, because at the end of the day, it is free money that we want to take advantage of. And if we spend it correctly, it could be forgiven 100%. So got a 4-page PDF here. I have my assistant's email address here. Let me see. I have my assistant's email address, Erin at Vasquez and Family Inc. If you want to email her, she can send this to you. I'm going to walk you through 4 pages in the PDF on how to get a second PPP loan if you've already received the first one. And then if you haven't gotten in on a PPP loan, how to apply as a first timer as well. So we're going to walk right into it and be very educational. This should be a guide. The big difference this time around with this PPP loan in comparison to the last round, it's a lot more organized this time around. The last time it was really the wild, wild west, go out there, find a bank, God help you finding a bank to apply. And, good luck is really what it was, outside of some guidance that we were able to provide. This time around, the banks have, especially like the bigger banks, they have revamped their customer service. So if you're already received a first round and you're looking to apply for a second round, there's more help this time around from what we're seeing and hearing from our clients. So second round PPP qualification. The biggest thing that we need to take away here, in order to qualify for a second round, you need to exhibit Q119 versus Q120, Q219 versus Q220, quarter over quarter, year over year, 19 versus 20. There needs to be a decrease in your total gross income. Gross income is your top line number. Don't worry about expenses or anything like that. But there needs to be a top line number, Q1 versus Q119 versus Q120, Q219 versus Q220, Q319 versus Q320, or Q419 versus Q420. One of those quarters between 2019 and 2020, you need to exhibit a 25% decrease in total gross income in order to qualify for a second PPP loan, okay? So you really need to sit down and kind of look at your 19 numbers in relation to your 2020 numbers, kind of look at your gross commission report or whatever you're doing to track your total income. Did I experience a 25% decrease in one of those quarters between 19 and 20? Because that's the big qualifier here. This PPP loan, the first round of PPP, it was basically open to anybody, okay? The Lakers got a PPP loan, Shake Shack. We heard all the stories, okay? But this time around, they're really targeting distressed business owners who have experienced some sort of gross income decrease. So I have an example here, number 3 here, example. So let's say in Q2 2019, I had gross total income of $40,000 for that quarter of 2019. But then Q2 2020 comes around, business was slower for whatever reason. It does not matter, okay? Whatever reason, business was slower. And in Q2 2020, I had income of $30,000. So there's a $10,000 decrease year over year. And that constitutes that 25% decrease that you're gonna need to show to be eligible for a second PPP loan. If you're someone who, 2020, you had a strong year despite the COVID and the pandemic and political arena, etc. If you had a stronger 2020 compared to 2019, and in one of those quarters you did not experience a decrease of at least 25%, you are not eligible. You will not be eligible. So this second time around, they're targeting more distressed business owners. So you're going to have to kind of just sit down. The SBA is just opened up their portals today to start accepting applications from the bank. So this is perfect timing. Sit down today, and look at my numbers, 19 versus 20. Quarter over quarter, did I have a 25% decrease in gross income? If I did, then I'm eligible for a second PPP loan. And basically your second PPP loan, it's going to be pretty much the same amount you received the first time around, okay? So whatever you got the first time around, you're going to get it again if you can exhibit that 25% decrease in total income, okay? In terms of forgiveness, okay, a lot more flexibility here, okay? If you're someone who has employees, okay, you probably have a legal entity in place, you have an assistant or two, some sort of team leader, you're someone who has created a business, you're not necessarily a solo agent. You're going to have to track and potentially be advised on spending the money correctly. At least 60% of the money this time around must be used to pay employees on payroll, and employees includes yourself, okay? So that includes yourself. And the remaining 40% is going to be able to be used for overhead costs, rent, utilities, PPP equipment, disability insurance, etc. They're rolling out new things. They're also saying that hiring an accountant to advise is looking like it's going to be a covered cost this time around with this PPP second round. So I highly recommend, if you're someone that has payroll, whether it's just yourself or you have an S corporation, you pay yourself some sort of salary every year, I highly recommend work with an accountant to make sure it doesn't necessarily have to be us, but work with an accountant who understands these rules so that you're spending the money correctly, because these rules are they're straightforward, 60% at least towards payroll, and then the other 40% towards covered overhead. But just have that assurance with that accountant, so that way you're not going to filing an application, for forgiveness to have this money forgiven, and then you're running into hiccups. Okay, you guys. If you do not have employees, you're someone who you're a solo agent, you report all of your income and expenses on Schedule C. Okay, the money you receive, it's basically viewed as compensation. You don't have to worry about spending it correctly. So if I'm someone who no legal entity in place, no payroll, I'm a solo agent, I get my 1099, at the end of the year, I report my income and expenses on my tax return. Whatever you get in the PPP loan, the government pretty much automatically forgives it. They don't really care how you're spending it. They're basically assuming that the money they're giving you, it's going to be used to pay for it yourself, pay compensation for yourself, and they're also going to assume that you're using it for business expenses as well. So you don't necessarily have to worry about the whole 60% on salaries, employees, and the other 40% on overhead. They pretty much just say, whatever we've given you, if you're a regular, no entity in place, it's just you used it, it's compensation for yourself, and you're good to go. So a lot more flexibility there for the non-legal entity business owners out there. And this time around, okay, point 3 here, you can choose either 8 weeks or 24 weeks to spend the money correctly, okay? Now, I would use the 24 weeks because 24 weeks, it's 6 months, plenty of time to, to work with an accountant, get the money and make sure you're spending it correctly. If you're someone who has a lot of overhead and you really think that you're going to exhaust the money within 8 weeks, okay, but they're giving you this flexible amount of time of 24 weeks to spend the money correctly. So I would really take advantage when you're filling out the forgiveness application, use the 24-week term, okay? 6 months, plenty of time. And, that gives you plenty of time to talk with an accountant and make sure that you're on pace to spend the money correctly and get it 100% forgiveness, okay? And finally, understand that regardless if you got it in the first round or the second round, you need to file a forgiveness application to get these PPP loans forgiven. Right now, there's no time frame on this second round on when this application is due. That hasn't come out yet, but it's likely going to be 6 months after either the 8-week period or the 24-week period, depending on which one you go. So understand that just because you get the money, and even if you spend it correctly, there's still an application that you have to file with the bank, and then the bank submits it to the SBA, and then the SBA approves of whatever forgiveness percentage that you get. So that's a big misconception. A lot of people are saying, a lot of people are not 100% aware that you still have to file a forgiveness application to get this money forgiven, either on that first round or if you're going for a second round here, because they just think that I spent the money correctly and I'm good. So just be aware of that. Now, these first two pages here, I see a couple questions. This is the email for Erin, you guys. This email here, Erin at Vazquez and Family Inc. I just talked to her before I got on the phone, got on this call. You'll want to email her and she'll send you this PDF so you have it. Okay. Finally, if you're someone who has not received a PPP loan, you for the first time around, you did not receive it, okay, you're still eligible to apply, okay? And they're pretty much going off of your 2020 financial activity. So there's two methods of applying. First method is if you're someone that's like a solo agent, contractor, maybe you have an LLC in place, but you don't have an S corporation, a C corporation, or anything like that, okay? So if you're someone that just, no legal entity in place, no payroll in place, you need to sit down and do your 2020 P&L, okay? And this is basically showing you kind of just a hypothetical, P&L here for someone. So let's say I made $75,000, okay? Had 6 transactions for the year. Gross income was $75,000 for 2020. You're going to want to go through your expenses. And, I just have basic expenses here: cell phone, meals, mileage, office supplies, etc., etc. Go through it. And in this situation, I have $25,975 in tax deductible expenses. So what you really need to identify is this net taxable profit. So I made $75,000 of gross income. After my expenses of $25,975, I have a net taxable profit of $49,025, okay? That's the number that you need to identify, okay? Once you have that $49,025 number, okay, you divide that by 12, okay? And that gives you your monthly average take-home pay. So if I made 49 after expenses, I made 75, I counted for all my expenses totaled to 25,975. My taxable profit for the year was 49,25. I take that 49,025 and divide it by 12. That my average monthly take-home pay was $4,085. Okay, so you get that average monthly pay, then you multiply it by 2.5. Okay, you take this 4,085 and you multiply it by 2.5. That gives you your PPP loan qualification amount. So you would be eligible in this situation for $10,214. And again, because you're structured as, a solo agent, a contractor, maybe you have an LLC, you don't have an S corporation or a C corporation in place, no payroll, the government would give you this $10,214, and there really wouldn't be any tracking or anything like that you need to worry about in terms of how you spend the money. The government's just basically going to give you the money, and they're going to assume you're using it for compensation of yourself, business expenses, etc. So this is the formula for those of you who have not gotten in on the PPP loan. You got to sit down, do your P&L. We're going into tax season, and this is probably the part of the year that every business owner dreads, unfortunately. but you need to do this formula here to see how much you qualify for. So you have to sit down, figure out what your expenses are, okay? Figure out how much income I had, what my expenses are, and get that net taxable profit, divide it by 12, and then I multiply it by 2.5, and that's how much of a PPP loan that I would be qualified for. So that's how it's calculated if you're a solo agent contractor or if you have a regular LLC. On the other hand, I have a little bit of a typo here. Just make a quick little note here. This should not be 2020. So it says total 2019 payroll. It should say total 2020 payroll. So I apologize for that. But if you're someone that has an S corporation, a C corporation, or an LLC taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation, it's going to go off of your 2020 payroll. Okay. That's what you need to worry about. It's not going off of income and expenses. If you're trying to apply that first time, they're going to look at your payroll. Okay. And your payroll tax returns, those are due by 1/31/2021. So if I'm someone who, I have an S corporation, I may, after expenses, I have a net income of $100,000, and of that $100,000, I pay myself a salary of $55,000. That's what they're looking at. What is that payroll number looking like for you? So you get that payroll number, okay, and then you divide it by 12. So if I paid myself salary, or if I paid between myself and maybe an assistant $55,000, I divide that by 12, okay? And that would give me my average monthly payroll cost, which is $4,583.33. Then I take that average monthly payroll cost and I'm gonna multiply that by 2.5. And that would give me my PPP loan qualification amount. I would be eligible for $11,458.33. So understand there's two different calculations to figure out how much you qualify for if you're someone trying to get on this the first time around. Okay. Some quick notes. Note that independent contractors are not included in the payroll calculation. Okay. Only people who are on payroll are the ones that factor into this calculation. If you're someone that's an S corporation, C corporation, or an LLC taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation. If you're someone that has an S corporation and you're not filing payroll for whatever reason, maybe you had a slow year, I don't know, but if you're not paying yourself any payroll or paying any employee's payroll, you're not going to qualify for a PPP loan. Payroll has to be paid if you're an S corporation or C corporation, or an LLC taxed as an S corporation or C corporation, in order to qualify. And the last but least, if your bank is giving you problems, again, this time around, the banks have been a lot more supportive with the clients that we've been dealing with, a lot more proactive. A lot of banks were even emailing people, 3 weeks ago, letting them know, the second round of PPP is coming out. We want to try to get you pre-qualified, etc. Look to alternative banks. Look to a local community bank. Okay, if Bank of America is giving you problems, look to a local community credit union or a local bank that's close by you. The customer service approach is going to be a lot better. PayPal, Cabbage, QuickBooks Online, and Stripe, that last time around, those were awesome. So the online banks, okay? PayPal, Cabbage, QuickBooks Online, look to those, they call them fintech banks. They have algorithms that it's very streamlined to apply, and you pretty much get your qualification or pre-qualification amount within a day at the most, okay? So, big banks, they're going to focus on their bigger clients. And, the majority of us in here are small to medium-sized business owners. So if you're having trouble with a big bank, I had tremendous trouble with Bank of America. I don't even know why I'm with them anymore, but I still am. But, PayPal, Cabbage, QuickBooks Online, these online banks, they really saved the day that last time with PPP. So be proactive. If your bank's giving you trouble, look to another bank. You don't have to stay loyal to the bank if you're trying to get in on a PPP loan. So Tristan, that's pretty much the update here, in 4 pages.
Well, you've got some questions here, man. How are you doing?
Okay.
Take some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Not too many. I tried to pick up a few of them on the chat. All right. Let's go with the first one on here, which you may have picked up already, but can you get the PPP while getting PUA from the EDD? That sounds like a rap song, first of all, but let's go.
You're going to want to really look at that situation. So understand that the PPP loan, it's essentially receiving compensation. Okay. You're getting compensation. That's essentially what this is. Okay. So if you're getting the PPP loan, you have to disclose on your PUA report. I think every 2 weeks you have to disclose what's going on with your financial affairs. You're going to have to disclose that you received some sort of PPP loan because it's compensation, okay? So you have to be transparent, because what you don't want to have happen is have California EDD find out, a year from now, 6 months from now, that despite you getting, EDD benefits, PUA benefits, you also got a PPP loan. You're essentially double dipping in that situation. And you're probably going to run into problems. There's no question about that. So really kind of look at your situation. If you really had a slow 2020, okay, really, really slow, and my PPP loan I'm qualified for $1,000, couple grand, you might want to just not go through with the PPP loan and stay on that unemployment benefits that you're receiving, because that's probably a higher income benefit to you than the PPP loan.
Okay, perfect. Barbara Radke. Hey, Barbara. She said, cabbage is gone, but bought by AE.
Amex.
No longer doing loans. Just FYI.
Oh, really? Okay. I knew that they got bought out by Amex, but I wasn't aware that they're not doing it. But okay, that's good to know. There's still plenty of other online banks out there that you can utilize.
All right.
And again, this time around, the banks have overhauled their customer service department, so it's not the wild, wild west like it was the first time around. This time around, it seems like it's a little bit more structured. It's the second time around, so we've gone through the grinder. We went through a tour. The banks went through a tour of duty. So this time around, they have experience, and they're overhauling their customer service departments.
It was kind of dirty the first time too, man. It was
the wild, wild west, Tristan.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
When I applied that first time around through Bank of America, I was in Lake Havasu. Me and my family were hanging out in Lake Havasu. Bank of America calls me saying that I need to upload some sort of my articles of incorporation, and I didn't have it saved to my computer. So I literally, we drove back one night from Lake Havasu back to Laguna Hills just to upload this document so that I can get going through with it. So
wow.
Yeah. First time around was definitely in the Wild West.
All right, got a few more questions here for you.
Sure. Let's keep going.
I already applied for the second round. The amount of the PPP loan actually went up for me a bit, as they based it off of 2020 payroll. I made more in 2020. However, second quarter in 2019 versus 2020, I made more than 25% less. So I guess you made less than 25%. I applied over the weekend. Any advice on that one, or was the question?
Sounds like for 2020 you had more payroll expenses. Sounds like that quarter two, that's where you're meeting at that minimum of a 25% decrease. So it sounds like you just had more payroll in 2020. So this time around you're getting a little bit more money, which makes sense, complete sense. The ones who are the industries that are really getting more money this time around is restaurant industries. they're getting 3.5 times their monthly expenses. They're really going all out for restaurant industries to get money into they have special rules. The rest of us, business owners in the real estate industry, it's pretty much the same thing year over year.
It makes sense, man. That totally makes sense on the restaurant side. All right, Josh has got a question. What if you didn't get a PPP last time, but you took money early from the retirement plan, like Roth IRA? Is there forgiveness for that of some sort?
Okay, so you took money out of your retirement account. You're going to want to, there are special rules in terms of people who do that. I think you were able to take out up to $100,000. And the way it's going to be taxed or not taxed on your tax return, I'm not 100% off the top of my head. I don't know the rules, but you're going to want to definitely bring that up to your accountant that you're working with and let him know, because there are special rules for people who dipped into their retirement account to kind of just, cover cash flow needs. There are special rules that exist. I don't know them off the top of my head right now.
All right, awesome. We got a question from Christine. Can you apply for PPP loan first time if you received an SBA loan during the pandemic?
Yeah, no problem. If you received an SBA grant, SBA loan, EIDL, no problem. You're still eligible to apply for a PPP loan. So you can apply for the SBA EIDL loan. I think it's like 3.75% interest over 30 years. That's completely different than this PPP loan. So you can do both. That's no problem.
Awesome. What about, she says, sorry, I was not during the call, but did you answer the question about PPP while getting PUA?
Yeah. So the big thing I understand is if you're receiving PUA, okay, you're going to have to disclose on, I think every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, you're disclosing to the EDD, I was looking for work. This is how much money I made off of this and that. You are disclosing your personal financial information so that they issue you your check every 2 weeks or whatever it is. If you apply for a PPP loan, okay, that is essentially viewed as compensation. So you would have to disclose that you received some sort of PPP loan, and that was going to likely for maybe I don't know how long. It's likely going to impact how much you're getting from your PUA. So you really want to kind of look at your situation. If I had a really, really tough 2020, okay, and my PPP loan qualification amount, I'm only getting $1,000, probably better off not even going through with a PPP loan and being on the PUA, continuing with that, because that's going to be a better long-term financial income source for you.
All right, good. Can you use an online bank to apply for PPP even though we're not a customer of theirs yet?
It shouldn't be a problem.
All right, cool.
Be a problem.
Barbara Racky said she went to smartbizloans.com and it was easy. So
okay, so that's a good one. That's good to know.
Barbara's always dropping the gold nuggets, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Yep.
Barbara rocks it. All right. Let's see. We got 2 more, I think. Did I miss one, Paul? Other than that?
No, I don't see any more. But
okay, I do see actually Richard saying that Cabbage is doing a second time loan for people who received the first time. So it looks like Cabbage is just doing it for the people who received it the first time around. That's good to know as well.
All right, I got 2 for you. One from Dragana and the other one from Andrea. What's up, Andrea? All right, did we need to have decreased income by more than 25% in 2020 versus 2019 in only one quarter? What if that's the case, but overall you made more money in 2020 over 2019?
Yeah, if they're only looking at it from one quarter year over year. So, if I had a better quarter one in 2020 than I did in 2019, then I had a decrease in quarter two, that 25% decrease. But then quarter three comes around and I had a better quarter. And even quarter four comes around and I had a better quarter. They're only looking at, you just have to exhibit one of those quarters year over year. Did you have a 25% decrease in revenue? That's all they're looking at. So you could be someone who had in 2023 stronger quarters year over year, but just one quarter where I had a decrease, you would still qualify.
All right, all right. And so here's another question. It's a very niche question, so I don't know if you have the answer for this one, but
Okay.
last time I received a small PPP loan, I applied before the 113 deadline for a grant for women minority business owners. In that paperwork, it said we'd be disqualified if I received a PPP loan before. That grant must be different than this process of getting a second PPP loan, correct? The link was
that
from
makes sense. So with this grant that you applied, that's targeted for women minority business owners, it sounds like in order to qualify for it, you can't apply for a PPP loan. So it makes sense, but I don't know how they would police that. How would they know, if you got this grant, how would they know that you also applied for a PPP loan? But it looks like, this is in lieu of a PPP loan. They're giving money to targeted women minority business owners. So that paperwork, it sounds like that's very transparent there.
Yeah, if they ask that question though, or if they put it out there that way, Louie, I mean, it would make me nervous to then go the other direction.
Yeah, right. So maybe you want to kind of look and see, how much of a PPP loan based off of this PDF am I qualifying for in comparison to this targeted women minority business owner grant that you received. Which one's more? If this targeted one is more money than what you're going to get for the PPP loan, this sounds like a better option. But if you're getting from this targeted women minority business owner, if you're getting $5,000, but your PPP loan, you're eligible for $20,000, you're probably better off going with the PPP loan. But so I would look to see what's the more icing on the cake.
All right, man. One more question for you. This may be off topic. It says,
Okay.
I know the SBA grant doesn't affect the PPP loan. In regards to the SBA grants up to 10K, how are the governments expecting those to be repaid, or are they?
Yeah. So we actually, Paul, we just had this update with Jennifer on this. So if you go out and get a SBA up to $10,000 grant, okay, that's just free money for you. It's advertised up to $10,000, but in order to get the full $10,000, you actually have to have 10 people on payroll. So if it's just you, the only worker for your business, you're gonna get $1,000. Okay, it's now irrelevant in terms of what you get in terms of a PPP loan. Before the application for PPP forgiveness, you had to disclose how much of an EIDL grant you received, okay? But now with the second stimulus act and new rules, you no longer have to disclose that. The government doesn't care how much you received in terms of the EIDL grant.
All right, dude, perfect. Let's see. All right, so we've got your information here, Aaron at VazquezandFamilyInc.com. If they send an email to that one, they're going to get this PDF, right?
Send it to her. This is broke it down to basically 4 pages, as simple as I can make it, and you'll get it same day, probably within 15 minutes, 10 minutes at that.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Paul, anything you want to ask that we may have missed, or?
No, it's pretty comprehensive. And Louie, again, thank you so much. Also, Tristan, thanks for your continued help with our regions and being a resource for us on lab coat agents. So really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.
Yeah. And like in the chat box, Louie, wishing you well, man. I guess you're over the hump now, but still thinking about you on that.
Appreciate it. Just taking it easy, just trying to get better. Fortunately, it didn't hit us too hard, Paul, but I appreciate the kind words. So everyone, get in on this second round, or for first round, it's free money, $285 billion for the taking. Wow. So get in on it.
I just shot an email out to Aaron too. So thanks, Louie. Appreciate it.
Perfect.
Thanks
All right,
everybody
guys.
for joining us.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you next week. Paul and I will bring in an awesome guest as well. Louie, this is like a monthly thing, bro.
Well, it's a good opportunity to get the name out and help people get this money that's available, because there's some people struggling out there. There's some really business owners struggling big time out there. And we're seeing it firsthand as a CPA firm.
That's true, buddy. We'll get better, man. I appreciate you.
Take care, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Thanks a lot.